Okay, it's right at 2 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started, or 1 p.m. Mountain Time, for those of you in a different time zone. Thank you so much for joining us all today. I know we have a collection of both current EDA VISTA participant EDDs and prospective districts for the program. So we're so happy that we're able to provide some additional information on the topic today. Just some quick housekeeping before we get started. For those of you on the Zoom platform that haven't used it before, I have everybody muted. You do have the capacity to unmute yourself if you have a question. We're happy to take questions throughout, but we'll definitely open up a Q&A at the end if you'd prefer to hold your questions or send it through the chat. You can send it to myself or to Stacy, or you can send it to everybody and we'll answer any questions that come in that way. For folks who are on the phone, in order to unmute yourself, you would have to hit *6, although I will unmute everybody at the end during our question and answer session. This webinar is being recorded for folks in the future, so just so that you know. And yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. So my name is Sally Whaley. I am a Senior Economic Development Specialist here in the Austin office of EDA. I'm also the Program Manager for the EDA VISTA program and have been with it since its inception, going into our 4th year, which is really exciting, and we're really excited to talk about kind of the success that we've had and the opportunities that we have moving forward. I also would like to introduce Stacy Webb. Or Stacy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Sally. Can everyone hear me, first of all? Sally, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes, you sound great.
All right. So I am the contact for the Denver Regional Office VISTA program. We joined the program last year. We've been very fortunate to benefit from all the hard work that Austin put into the development of the program. We've certainly learned a lot over this last year. From what we've heard, there seems to be a big demand for this program from the EDDs in our region. So we're just glad that you've shown such an interest, and we look forward to getting some VISTAs out there in the field to build capacity in your operations and support your projects.
Awesome, great. And as I mentioned, there's a variety of folks on the line, both who have participated in the past or are currently participating. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from some of y'all throughout our presentation to give some input on what your stories and lessons learned have been throughout the program. So thanks for joining. Great. So what is VISTA? So for those of you who are unfamiliar with the program, AmeriCorps VISTA stands for Volunteers in Service to America. AmeriCorps itself sits under the Corporation for National and Community Service, and they host a whole range of programs that y'all may be familiar with, even if you're not familiar with this one, including Senior Corps and Teach for America, different AmeriCorps programs, Service Year, things like that. So this is one of their programs that they support. It was founded in the 60s, kind of around the era of civil service in the vein of Peace Corps. This AmeriCorps VISTA was kind of called the domestic Peace Corps when it was created, because of the way that folks come in and serve full time for a year in order to get back to communities in the states. And it provides full-time volunteers to nonprofits, local governments, NGOs, essentially anybody who isn't a for-profit enterprise, to help with their capacity building domestically. And VISTA members themselves are people who are coming to this position with that service mindset, wanting to serve full-time in their community or a different community on a project that they know a lot about or one they're trying to learn more about. But it's representative of people 18 years and older. So across the spectrum, we have people in the middle of, coming out of high school before they go to college that want to do a service year. We have people in the middle of college, coming out of college. We have people who are mid-career, want to take a year off to do service or to do a career shift. We've had retirees, people who now have full time to engage their community and want to get back in a program like this. So we've had even in our demographic here with the EDA program have had representative of a great breadth of the community. So they serve 40 hours a week with y'all in working on capacity building projects. So that means that folks go in and work on a project that your office otherwise wouldn't be working on. So it's not something that you're already doing. It's not, it's a typical definition between capacity building and immediate service is like if somebody's going out and doing a walkthrough of a number of things that your organization already does, something that is already being supported by your program. Capacity building is something that wouldn't be happening otherwise. It's something that when that VISTA leaves, that program's going to be in place without them. So if they leave that position, if they were just doing immediate service, that somebody's not doing that anymore. If they were answering your telephones, that's immediate service. Capacity building is building out a communications network that will be a framework that will be in place after they leave. So we'll get more into kind of what the projects look like in a little bit, but that's a differentiation between VISTA and some of the other AmeriCorps programs that do exist. Okay. And the reason that EDA initially matched up with VISTA is because we have very similar missions. So the EDA mission is to promote innovation and competitiveness and help our communities grow and prosper economically. And VISTA's is the same, kind of the other side of the coin, which is to alleviate poverty. So we're building prosperity, they're alleviating poverty, which is kind of the same thing put in different terms. And it was a great matchup for what we're doing for our communities and how they can help us provide additional capacity. A little bit on the history of our project. Stacy, do you want to take this one?
Sure. So this shows the history of the VISTA program, which was established by the Austin Regional Office in 2016 with 4 VISTAs placed in Texas. In 2017, Austin opened the program to all states in their region with a total of 10 VISTAs and added a VISTA leader. Last year, Austin's program grew to 15 VISTAs, and that's when the Denver office joined, piloting the program in Colorado and Utah. And that brings us to this year. Austin will have a total of 15 VISTAs, and Denver will open it to all the states with 10 VISTAs, and this year we're going to add our VISTA leader. So you can see from just how quickly the program has grown from 4 VISTAs to 35 in 3 years, and it's just really all due to the success of the program and the demand from the districts. Next slide.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I'll just point out as well here that that 15 is the capacity that we have expected to reach. We're not going to exceed that. And I'll explain in just a moment kind of how that works. But that 15 is what we are stopping at. We're not going to have any more districts join the program at any one time. We're going to kind of rotate people. And I believe Denver has the same goal in mind. And then additionally, that VISTA leader position has been really key. That's somebody who sits for us with the Texas Association of Regional Councils, which is one of our great partners that helps facilitate a lot of information and training here locally in Texas for our districts. And our VISTA leader sits with them and helps with the management of the program. So they help with the individual VISTAs and their training and education, and they help EDA facilitate and manage the program.
So this webinar is going to provide information on how the program works. We'll go over this year's timeline, explain the types of projects that can be supported by VISTA. We'll go over the associated cost with the VISTA, and we'll outline the primary responsibilities of both EDA and the EDDs, and discuss the VISTA training. Next slide.
Great. Perfect. So kind of going back to how this works in the rotation of VISTAs and districts in and out. So the initial step here is that a district that wants to participate designs a capacity building project. And again, we'll go over some examples of those shortly, but you build out a project for what will be a 3-year period. Because when a district joins the EDA VISTA program, they're on board for 3 years. And under that 3-year period, you as a district will be recruiting individual VISTA members to serve for either 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. So we've had kind of we've seen multiple representations of this. So a lot of VISTAs, again, it's a 40-hour volunteer commitment. So most people don't stay past 1 year. It is tough financially for folks to do it, and kind of for other planning purposes. So most of the VISTAs we see stay for 1 year. So that means if you guys are participating with us for 3 years, you're probably going to be engaging in recruitment of a VISTA once a year. We have had VISTA stay on multiple years. We have one VISTA currently serving who's in her 2nd year. We've had VISTAs who stayed on for multiple years. Our current VISTA leader previously served in one of our districts, and then she came up to Austin to onboard with us as the VISTA leader to help manage the program. So people do stick around for multiple years. It's very possible that you can find the right person and they'll stick around for all 3 years of your program. But recruitment is a big part of the VISTA cycle, and we'll go into that a little bit as well. So then after 3 years, each district, if you want to continue into the program, we'll need to put in essentially another competitive letter of interest. So we'll keep you on for 3 years. Each year, you tell us a little bit more about how your program's going and what direction you're going to take it. But after 3 years, if you want to continue participating, you'll be back in that competitive pool. And again, that goes back to the fact that we have 15 positions open, and those will be kind of rotating on a maybe like 3 to 5 or so districts cycling in and out each year is how we have it set up. And so each year is going to be a little different in terms of how many spots we have open. Austin only has 3 spots open this year, just based on how people are rotating in and out of the program. But then next year, I anticipate that we'll have several other openings. So that's kind of how the cycle works in terms of participating with EDA.
So this is our timeline, and it provides some really important dates for you to remember. August 1st, the letters of interest are due, and we'll talk more about what you need to include in those letters later. By August 8th, Austin and Denver will have selected the EDDs that will participate in this year's program and have notified them. August 12th is the VISTA Supervisors Kickoff Call. This is a mandatory call that provides really the specifics about the recruitment phase and other really important information. We cannot stress enough that the supervisor that you identify in your letter of interest must attend this call. So please have them mark this date down. Recruitment is, the recruitment phase will be from September to November, with the final selections of the VISTA made in December. And then the VISTAs will start their service in January. We're not exactly sure when that date will be, but it should be in January. And we'll let you know more about that later in the program year. In March or April, Austin and Denver will have the VISTAs in their office. And that's either, for obviously the Austin districts will have their VISTAs go to Austin, and the Denver EDDs will send their VISTAs to Denver, and we'll have some orientation and all of that really before they start service, maybe virtually, and then in March and April we'll try and have them in the office for orientation and training. Okay.
Okay, good. So I'm getting down to the different types of projects. So as I mentioned previously, capacity building is big. So we want a VISTA to come in and work for you guys on a program that that's gonna sustain itself after the program. So you guys are in the program for 3 years. We want, after those 3 years, for whatever program gets built out or whatever capacity is built out with the VISTAs that are serving with you, to be able to sustain itself and last after that VISTA. So we don't, ideally, we don't want somebody coming in and just working on something that's going to take place during those 2 years, and once they leave, it's done. So we want it to be a capacity building project, and again, that's a VISTA program requirement. And then we want it to be a unique task. And what I mean by that is that we don't want a VISTA coming in and replacing work that's being done by somebody else. And this is another CNCS VISTA requirement, is that they don't want VISTAs to come in and take the place of what would have otherwise been a paid job with your organization. So they don't want VISTAs replacing jobs in America. They want VISTAs to be adding benefit. So if somebody's, you know, so a good example is the SEDS. So a lot of VISTAs work on the SEDS currently, and that's great. But what we don't want is the VISTA to be coming in and just working on the SEDS in the same capacity that your staff is already working on it. If you are wanting to add a website tool for your SEDS, if you're wanting to add additional engagement with your communities, or do like smaller localized SEDS with different counties or cities, that's great, because because presumably you don't have the capacity currently, either personnel resources or monetary resources, to pay somebody to do that. So if a VISTA is going to come in and build that out for you, that's fantastic. What we don't want to see is a VISTA just doing the work that's already prescribed to you guys through the EDA district planning grant. So that's an example of that we use a lot. So that unique task is something that we like for y'all to think about when you're putting together, you know, what you're proposing for your VISTA to work on. So some other things to keep in mind are pressing needs for your district. So alignment with your operations under the economic development district. So that means, you know, working on economic activity, integration activities, planning and research. And I know that, and we point this out primarily because a lot of our districts, especially here in the Austin regional area, are seated under larger organizations that work on a whole host of activities. We want to make sure that this is specifically focusing on economic development activities rather than a different part of your organization, since it is through the EDA. And then the second thing to keep in mind, that the primary assignment of that VISTA with your EDD should be with your office rather than a sub-organization. So if one of the projects that you're identifying for the VISTA to work on is working with a specific city or county, that's fantastic. We've had VISTAs who have spent, you know, 2 days of the week out at a specific city or county working with them and their economic development organization. But what we don't want is for you to kind of onboard your VISTA and then immediately send them out and have them reporting directly to that organization. We still want them to be reporting directly to you. And that's, again, kind of to avoid a pass-through situation with the VISTA and the grant. Okay. So some specific examples of past project areas. We've seen this one a couple of times: survey, assessment, and growth strategy for regional business development. So that's, you know, specifically looking on looking at an industry, or looking at all those small businesses in an area or county, and looking at how the EDD can help grow those, or, you know, how they can partner with the Chamber of Commerce, things like that. So those studies and strategies. Feasibility for localized development projects. So a lot of times folks will come in with wanting to have a VISTA work on a project that's been identified under their SEDS. And that's fantastic. We've had a couple of examples where you know, projects have been identified under the SEDS for transportation, or for disaster recovery or brownfields, and that VISTA will go in and do essentially the feasibility study for it. Economic development, education, and community engagement. So the VISTA has in several instances served as that kind of outreach person on behalf of the economic development district. So building up that community engagement and community awareness of what the district is doing. Facilitating localized or value add SEDS work. So that's essentially what I was just talking about. Something that's in addition to what is already being done on the SEDS. VISTAs have in several instances gone in and made some really beautiful products for the SEDS works, including marketing strategy of that SEDS, websites, localized SEDS, so going under the SEDS and then working with individual counties and cities to do kind of smaller SEDS products. And then specific focuses on disaster recovery and mitigation has been something that we've seen a lot, especially as EDA's involvement with disaster recovery and mitigation has increased over the past few years. Industry expansion, brownfields has been a big one. Communication strategy. So there's a bunch of different ways you can take this, and given my words earlier about making sure this is staying focused on economic development, there's so many different different categories that can fall under that heading. So we just wanted to provide some examples of what's happened in the past, and that we're happy to consider whatever you guys are thinking about. Associated costs. So this is something that we have typically, okay, so how this works is that VISTA CNCS provides the stipend for the AmeriCorps VISTA. So essentially the people who have money going into this is AmeriCorps VISTA providing the stipend for that individual VISTA member. It's not much, about $1,000 a month. And then they also receive some post-service benefits, including a stipend or an education award they can choose. And the amounts of those are a little bit different. The education award, if they choose that one, and that can go to future education costs or to paying off student loans, is about $6,000. Or if they don't want to take an education award, they can receive a stipend in the amount, I think, of about $1,500. It's significantly less than the education award. And then there's also some immediate benefits as well. They provide some healthcare expenses. They provide child care, which is really huge, and we've had people take advantage of that. So if anybody on this call who knows how much child care costs, we had one VISTA who had a couple kids, and she was able to take advantage of the benefit of AmeriCorps VISTA paying for her child care costs. So that was like, thousands of dollars in additional benefit from AmeriCorps over the course of her year of service. The other post-service benefit that's included for AmeriCorps VISTAs is non-competitive eligibility for federal hiring. And that's really big for anybody who wants to join the federal workforce. I don't know if anybody on the call is aware or has tried in the past. It's really difficult to get a federal job. And this is something where after you've served as a VISTA, you can walk into an agency and have preferential hiring above anybody else that's applying for that job. So essentially you just don't have to jump through all the hoops that you would otherwise need to for federal hiring, which is really big and a cool benefit that they provide for VISTAs. So that's what AmeriCorps VISTA provides. The other person who's going to be putting money into this project is you as the district. And we tracked this the first year that we did this program, and we haven't tracked it since. But what we came up with was the amount of money that that districts were typically putting into this program to sustain the VISTA, and those expenses ranged quite a bit, especially depending on travel during individual months. But it was between $300 and $1,000 a month that the districts were spending to support the VISTA in this program, and those things included just desk space, so overhead. That you might be calculating out in terms of personnel, any travel that the VISTA might be doing out in your district, or to the EDA training. We have, as Stacey mentioned earlier, we do have the VISTAs come into the regional offices one time during the year at the beginning of the year to meet everybody, to do a training with EDA. So that training is supported, that the travel for that training is supported by the district costs. Phone lines, any additional trainings that you want to send VISTAs to, we always encourage that, but don't require it. So anything like that, and just going back to that pilot year where we were tracking costs, the pilot programs averaged less than $10,000 a year. Okay.
This outlines the program responsibilities of EDA and the EDDs. EDA will handle all of the administrative requirements for the grant with CNCS, so there's nothing required from the EDDs with regards to that CNCS application or grant award with EDA. We will support the recruiting efforts of the EDDs. We provide a lot of guides and resources. We are responsible for advertising your positions on the AmeriCorps website. We also host weekly recruiting calls, so we provide a lot of information to support that. As I said earlier, EDA will provide an initial VISTA orientation, and we're talking about doing sort of a combination where there's sort of a virtual orientation in January at their start of service, and then as Sally and I are talking about, bringing the VISTA in for training in either the Austin or Denver office. We also provide virtual training throughout the program. And Sally's going to go into more detail, I think, about training later. As part of the program, we also host monthly calls, and we have one with the VISTA supervisors and then a separate call with the VISTA. And these are really to get updates, keep up with you know, any changes that are taking place in the program or your program, discuss issues, and share opportunities and successes as a group. We will also be collecting the required monthly progress reports and submitting cumulative reports to CNCS. And all of EDA's activities are supported by the Austin and Denver VISTA leads. So as for the EDD responsibilities, the EDD is responsible for the daily supervision of the VISTA and the completion of the tasks that they're assigned. They will have the primary responsibility of recruiting. But as I said, EDA provides really a wealth of recruiting resources and guides, and we provide as much support as we can, one-on-one support if it's necessary. So in addition to EDA's training and orientation, obviously we would like the EDDs to provide their own onboarding and orientation once service starts, and that's just to acclimate the VISTAs to your office and to familiarize them with the functions of the EDD and their specific assignments. So as far as the monthly calls, the EDDs are responsible for participating in these calls. These are really important because, as I said, it allows us to share resources as a group. And so those are really important that the EDDs make sure that the VISTA supervisor and VISTAs are available for those monthly calls. The EDD will supervise the VISTA's submission of the monthly progress reports, and this is just to make certain that that the VISTA and the supervisor are communicating and that we're getting accurate reports. And then finally, the EDDs are responsible for certain associated VISTA costs, and that's something that Sally's already covered. Okay, fine.
Okay.
So EDDs that are selected to participate in the program will be required to sign a Memorandum of Agreement with EDA. And this agreement really just includes, you know, the standardized language that's required by CNCS regarding the program mission, and then also outlines those responsibilities of both EDA and EDD, which we just discussed. Next.
Great. Good. So training and orientation, a little bit on this, and Stacy and I have covered this a little bit, but just to outline exactly what the VISTA goes through when they're coming on board. So when the first thing that happens when they arrive at your site is that they will participate in a virtual pre-service orientation with CNCS AmeriCorps VISTA. So they provide that. It does, and that's what gives us our start dates for the VISTA, is that they have to start the day that this pre-service orientation is going on. So we went over the timeline earlier. That's going to be probably the third week in January. We're still waiting on an exact date for when the 2020 class is going to start, but that's what we're anticipating. And so when they arrive at your office, they'll need to have a computer and phone set up ready to go, because they'll be participating in this virtual pre-service orientation. VISTA provides them kind of with background information on what it means to be a VISTA, you know, some of their requirements, some of the things that they'll need to submit early on, like fingerprint forms. They do a lot of logistics and kind of basic intro on that one. VISTA has been moving into a system where they do mid-year training as well. So in addition to this, the VISTA may later in the year attend an in-person mid-year training, which we had a few VISTAs participate in this year, and we heard really great things on. It was the first time that they had done that for our VISTAs, and so that was great, and VISTA covers all the costs for that. But this is what we understand at this point to be the only thing that VISTA will require is this pre-service orientation that's going to happen on the computer. It's their first day, and then I think they have like kind of some homework and some other workshops over the next like 3 or 4 weeks when they first onboard. So that's what VISTA provides. As Stacey mentioned, at each of your districts, the direct supervisor and staff should provide on-site orientation and ongoing training for that VISTA, especially at the beginning, to help them understand, what it is that y'all do, just like you would do with any new employee, to provide that kind of that basic orientation and training. And then with VISTAs, often they're coming from different backgrounds, and we'll need more training and orientation than somebody that you would be hiring on as staff would. And that's contingent upon who you do receive, but that is something that this is a big piece that we really emphasize, is making sure that VISTA understands what's going on when they arrive and can figure out how to navigate their way around your organization and your community, and are getting good introductions to their partners and who they'll be working with. So that first week, we'll also do an EDA virtual orientation. In the past, we've brought the VISTAs out to the regional offices almost right away, but that has been stressful for most parties involved, because it's happening, where people are booking travel for VISTAs before they've even started with the EDD. And so what we're going to do this next year is have just a virtual welcome kickoff call orientation for VISTAs their first couple weeks, and then later in the spring, we'll be doing that in-service training in Austin and in Denver, respectively, for the VISTAs to come into our offices. And that's going to be the one opportunity where they'll all be face-to-face with each other, and the one opportunity they'll have to be face-to-face with EDA staff. And we've provided some really fantastic trainings for VISTAs in person in the past, and are looking forward to doing that in a slightly less stressful situation where people have time to book that travel and get prepared in advance. And then we also do facilitate ongoing support and training opportunities throughout the year. So the VISTA leader here currently, who is Angela, and who wasn't able to join us today, but she puts together a monthly webinar training on different topics, which has been really beneficial to continue that training in economic development for each of the VISTAs throughout the year. And then also to support some other training opportunities that are provided by VISTA. So that ongoing training is present throughout the service year.
The letters of interest are due August 1st, and they should state the primary focus of your VISTA's assignment as it relates to your operations of research, planning, technical assistance, and other activities to support economic development. The VISTA's primary assignment should be with the EDD and not with another agency or organization that you have the VISTA providing service to. So the EDD must be the supervising and guiding the VISTA service within the region. Sally covered this a little bit earlier. Sally, do you want to add anything here or clarify anything here?
Nope, thank you, Stacey. And I think there's some more information in it on the flyer that was distributed to everybody, kind of on that what that letter of interest might see. But yes, thank you.
Okay. The letter must also identify who the VISTA supervisor will be. We would prefer that not be the executive director. It should also include a brief bio that explains the supervisor's experience in relation to what the VISTA assignment is going to be. Please identify what you anticipate some of your recruiting avenues to be. This is really just to get you started thinking of potential resources for a VISTA candidate. Okay.
Perfect. Okay, great. And then again, as we mentioned, I'm the contact for the Austin Regional Office. Stacey is the contact for the Denver Regional Office. Those letters of interest are due by August 1st. We're happy to answer questions in the meantime, but those can just be emailed in, and then we'll be alerting people to our decision within the week after they're submitted, because again, that initial kickoff call is going to be on the 12th, and so we'll let you guys know just as soon as we know, but that should be by Friday the 9th, which is a week after submission, essentially. Okay, so we threw a lot of information at you guys. I would love to open it up for any questions. Again, please, if you're on Zoom, submit them through the chat. Otherwise, you can unmute yourself. I'll let people try and do that really quick, and then I'll just unmute all the lines if that's not working. If you're on your phone, you can hit *6 to unmute yourself. And I would also love to invite any of our currently participating VISTA programs who are on the line to share a little bit about your experience, what your VISTAs have been working on, so that other folks can benefit from that immediate perspective rather than hearing from me and Stacey. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and unmute all the lines, so just a heads up that everybody will be, but please keep your background noise down if possible.
Okay, bye.
Okay.
Sally?
Yep.
This is Blanca.
Hi, Blanca, how are you?
Sorry I joined in late, but I got out of a meeting, but I just heard you say to share a little bit about our experience.
Yes, that would be great. So Blanca is our program supervisor down in Lower Rio Grande Valley here in Texas, and they've been with the program for going into their 3rd year now. So yeah, Blanca, we'd love to hear a little bit about your program.
Sure. So this is our 2nd year going into our 3rd year with our 3rd VISTA. So our recruitment process was very interesting. I mean, lucky for us, we have a good relationship with the university and the local community colleges. So not only did we get people from the outside applying to the positions, but also local individuals. So we went through the interview, and we realized that having a local VISTA would be very beneficial for our COG and our region, because they know the issues, they've lived here, and they work here, right, as well, and they've gone to school here. And so they've worked on several projects, including like marketing plans. I know that we've are still working on a project called Explore RGV. And so they do a lot of the social media, the planning, the marketing, meeting up with the campaign manager as well, with the SEDs that we have going on, meeting with our stakeholders. Right now we do have the census going on, so they're involved in that. And and they also create their own projects as well. So it's been a wonderful experience. Obviously, Sally's been great guiding us through the process. So we're excited to start the 3rd year with our new VISTA here, hopefully soon. Our situation is a little different than the rest, but yeah, thanks so much, Sally, for your support.
Great, thank you so much for sharing, Blanca. They've had a great program, especially with their Explore RGB project. That's been, I know, a great program both for the district but also for the VISTA to work on, because it has involved the VISTA going out and exploring different parts of the region and interacting with businesses and other kind of tourist activities and documenting that and putting that together on a website. So that's been a fun one, I think, both for the district and the VISTA. Thanks for sharing. And let's see, we've had a couple questions come in on the chat. So State Association has discussed trying to get a VISTA to help grow the organization based on the presentation. I'm wondering if this is an option for a district to get a VISTA to play this role. So, and Stacey, happy to have your feedback here too. I think this is probably somebody from the Denver Regional Office. But we have had VISTAs work on statewide projects in the past. including doing marketing or building up websites or capacity building for an organization. That is something that we've done in the past. There are some challenges associated with it, including cost share. So if that VISTA is going to be based in one district, but working on issues for another organization or several districts, just ensuring that everybody has the resources worked out and who's going to chip in, who's going to provide travel or whatever for that. But I think that my answer to that question is that that's a possibility. I think that talking more directly with myself or Stacy on that to make sure we understand the specifics is probably a good next step for that question. Stacy, do you have anything to add there?
No, I think you're right. I think that the best thing to do there is just give me a call and we'll discuss what you're trying to achieve there and make sure that it's in line with the VISTA program. And yes, it has been done. As Sally said, though, you need to be very clear about outlining the that sort of shared resource among the districts. But just give me a call and we'll talk it through.
Great. Okay, so another question. Are there minimum requirements? Can you have one person, or do we have to have a minimum number of people? So I think, I'm not sure if I'm interpreting this question correctly, but just in terms of VISTA members, I'll answer that question. So each district gets one VISTA member per year. If that VISTA wants to stay over the 3-year period that the district is participating in the program, they're welcome to do that. Otherwise, if the VISTA is only going to stay 1 year and the district is participating for 3 years, then you as a district would recruit multiple people over the course of multiple years. But each cycle, each term, each district hosts one VISTA. So hopefully I interpreted that question correctly. And then, so another question, will EDDs that do not currently receive EDA partnership planning funding be considered for a VISTA? We are still charged with implementing our SEDS and could definitely use the extra assistance. So I think that's probably a Denver regional question as well, but Stacy?
Yeah, and honestly, this is something that we probably need to, Sally and I probably need to discuss and just make certain that the way we have the program set up, that it's open to districts that are, whether or not they're designated and not funded. We just need to look at maybe the technical aspect of it. Sally, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, so I think that's another good question for follow-up. But absolutely. I think it's definitely something we can, not a no, I think just something that we need to consider more and chat about.
Yeah, just please give us a call, and I think it is one of mine, and just give me a call and we'll go through it.
Perfect. Okay, great. Any other, I think those are all the questions we had in chat. Were there any other questions folks wanted to ask over the phone? Or any other good perspectives from folks currently participating in the project?
Hey, this is Michelle Hayes at Region 10. We have a VISTA as well. We really struggled to be able to recruit a VISTA, but we're very excited when we did. We did our SEDS update this year, and our VISTA was very instrumental in that. We also had a local disaster, and she helped put together some information for that we've been talking about for some time, about programs we can bring to communities when they are struggling with natural disasters. So she's just been a great support, gathering together, helping with gather resources and demographic data. Like I said, we haven't had her too long because we were a little late in the being able to recruit someone due to our challenges, but it's been an awesome addition to our team, and we're looking forward to continuing to work with them. And Stacy, I'll follow up with you on timing, since Alex started a little bit late, if we should go ahead and participate in this process, or how timing is going to work for year 2. So, but I can't, we've been very pleased with the process overall.
No, sure. Michelle, just give me a call and we'll talk about the timeline.
Sounds good.
Sally, it's Bob Bashara from DECCOG.
Hey, Bob.
We've had, we've been very pleased. This our first year I'll admit that we've had some element of moving around on what we had our VISTA doing. We're very rural. We've got, out of our 12 counties, only 4 of them have economic development professionals. So DECCOG is kind of the regional fill-in for the other 8 of them. And one of the things that we've had our VISTA working on is a portfolio of the type of material that site selection people look for, or just economic development situations as they develop. It'd be really nice to have at our fingertips that we know the counties don't have. So we've had her working on that. We've also gotten involved in a region-wide broadband project, and she has helped us with some of the outreach meetings and some of the stakeholder meetings that we've had with those. She's participated and worked with us on those. We're also cranking up on our SEDS, running a little late on it, but she's going to be a very valuable part as we work our way through those public meetings and compile and publish those materials.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for sharing, Bob. And yeah, y'all are a new addition to the program, and we're happy to have you. And we know that you guys have been filling a lot of good new programs and gaps with your VISTA.
Yes, thank you.
Great. Great. Any other questions, comments? Okay, well, again, I have one more coming in on the chat asking about how to find VISTAs. From past experience, it's been difficult, especially in rural areas. Yes, so recruitment is often our biggest, well, it's a challenge, especially for rural areas. And VISTA is a position that is pretty non-traditional. It's full-time, it's a year-long service, and it's not paid like a normal job, but it's longer than a normal internship would be. And so finding the right candidate is often an interesting combination of explaining what VISTA is and how the program has evolved. Sorry, I'm getting some feedback. Okay, let's try this again. So you know, kind of marketing the program is a big part of recruitment. Explaining to people what it is and how and why it's beneficial to somebody to want to participate. Rural areas often have, for us, had the most success recruiting people locally. People who already have good experience in that area, who have family ties or want to be there. But there's also a large contingent of folks across the United States that are looking to serve in a unique project, regardless of where it is. So we have had people move even across state. Actually, we've had people move from other countries to participate in the VISTA program. And so a lot of times that, you know, making your project unique and marketing it well has shown good benefits in attracting people. But it's tough in rural areas, and we have been built out a process of supporting y'all in your recruitment process here at EDA. So after the kickoff call, we begin recruitment pretty much immediately, and then we're going to be on recruitment calls once a week for about 2 months until everybody's kind of onboarded onto how the recruitment process is going to work. So we do a lot of support in terms of helping y'all with understanding the recruitment process and how you can best market yourself and your positions. Good questions, though, everybody. Anything else coming in online? And Stacy and I are both available via email and phone call to help field any questions you might have about a proposed project or any challenges or opportunities you might see for the program. So happy to help answer questions. Just shoot us an email. And thanks so much for everybody who's been on the call today and for your interest. And we're so happy to continue to be able to support this program for each of our regions and help provide additional capacity building. I am getting one more question in. You mentioned healthcare, insurance, and childcare in addition to the stipend. What about housing? So housing is not something that is provided by VISTA, but it is something that you as a district can help provide if that's something that's in your capacity. A couple of ways that we've seen folks help provide housing. One is if you work with a university or partnered with somebody as dorm space, oftentimes, we've only seen this once, but I understand it's something that happens with the VISTA program in other projects in other regions. But if you're partnered with a university or have somebody who can donate some housing space in that way, in a dorm or something like that, that happens with the VISTA program. Another way is that VISTA, because their stipend is super low in terms of what they're receiving monetarily, is that they qualify for low-income housing. We've seen some people utilize that in their communities. We saw one of our districts who is actually runs their affordable housing program actually changed their bylaw or changed their statute to incorporate VISTAs into somebody that qualifies immediately towards the top of the list. If you guys have that ability, that was a pretty amazing turnabout to be able to provide that to somebody who's doing community service at that level. But we've had other people who VISTAs wanted to qualified for community housing, but then the wait list is really long. So that's been a challenge, and it's definitely something that the districts have been very instrumental in helping people locate if somebody's relocating to their region, to help out with trying to say, hey, here's how our affordable housing program works, or something like that. So if you have some kind of in-kind housing benefit you can provide, that's fantastic, but VISTA itself does not provide that outside of the qualification for low-income housing. All right. Any final questions? Stacy, any final comments?
No, just again, please give me a call if you have any questions, want to discuss it further, or if you're just unsure of whether or not the VISTA need that you have and the activities you would be trying to support, if you're unsure if they fit within the parameters of this program, and just give me a call. We'll talk through each one.
And same goes here. And Stacy, how many open positions do you have for this year?
I have
Is it 6?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So there's 6 in the Denver region, and because Austin, hit our 15 districts last year, we only have 3 open that are rotating out. So so really excited to see the interest that comes in, and thanks again for joining us here today. We'll look forward to hearing more of your questions in the next few days. Thanks, everybody.